Hey there, Underground Sessions podcast listeners. We're so glad you're tuning in for another exciting episode. Hopefully you've liked what we've been doing this season. We've covered a lot of different topics. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that's very relevant, especially if you live in central New Jersey. How do you speak with, how do you do ministry with Muslims? You probably have rubbed shoulders with somebody of this faith tradition, if you're not of the faith tradition. And today, we're going to be talking with Dr. Alfonse Javed. He's got a heart for Muslims, and he's also written some resources on that. I hope you enjoyed this conversation and that it blesses you. Thanks for tuning in. All right, well, we're glad you're back for our Underground podcast. We got an exciting conversation today. To engage in this, by the way, if you don't know me, my name is Bob Erbig. I'm your host, always here in the Underground. And if you have not liked our YouTube channel, do that. And if you like this, actually, what is it? You like the video and you subscribe to the channel. So do that in whatever order you see fit. And especially on this topic, when we're talking about Islam and Christianity, feel free to offer some comments down there, and we'd love to engage you and answer your questions. That being said, I am joined today by my esteemed colleague, Pastor Dave Hentschel, over here to my left. There he is.
Hey, guys.
Dave, you're coming to the Underground. We recorded. It is unusual. We recorded behind the pulpit early this morning. Mm-hmm. When you wake up in the morning, do you sort of feel like you're in the underground cave, or do you wake up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed?
Yeah.
You are?
So this will be my second podcast of the day, and this will be inferior. I can guarantee you that.
Dave's along for the ride.
Steady decline as the day progresses.
We had a caffeinated Dave and sleepy Dave now post lunchtime. Well, our main guest today, as you probably already gathered from the intro, is Dr. Alfonse Javed. He is the I'll let you tell folks a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into the topic. So, Alfonse, say hi to the listeners.
Hi to the listeners. So my name is Alfonse, and I'm pastor at First Baptist Metuchen, and I'm originally from Pakistan, but came here for education, and then God decided to pave the path for me to stay here, become citizen, get married, have children, and lead the church where I am. I also teach at Liberty, and I have a special ministry for Muslims, founded an organization. Now it's run by the executive director, Brandon Dole, back in New York. It's a New York-based a ministry that is serving a lot of Muslims, especially in Metro New York area, but also people outside of the states. So that's me.
Yeah, well, that sounds like we have the right guest on to talk about the topic of ministry to Muslims, reaching Muslims, having spiritual conversations with Muslims. So,
speaking of that, today's a special holiday.
Yeah,
that's right.
Let's talk about that.
What's today?
Today is Eid al-Fitr.
And what are we celebrating when we recognize that holiday?
Yeah, that's good. Good question. So in Islam or in Muslim countries, you have two main events. Just like in the United States or in the West, we have Easter and Christmas. Christmas gets more, it's more popular, it gets more attention than Easter, even though we know Easter is more, that's in my
theologically significant.
More significant. But for Muslims, it's somewhat similar because to them they call it in Urdu. They use the word Badi Eid, Choti Eid, or Eid, and in Arabic it's the same idea, but in Arabic they use the different words. But the idea is the greater Eid is the Eid al-Adha, which is basically the day when they slaughter animals in the memory of Abraham's sacrifice of his son, and there the idea is not, the son is not Isaac, they think it's Ishmael, right? So you know that. But that's their main Eid, that's their greater Eid, that's like Christmas.
Right.
But this is their smaller Eid or Choti Eid, which is right after Ramadan. It happens, and it's the end of Ramadan, their fasting season, about 30 depending on the calendar. Sometimes it's 29 days, 28 days, 30 days. But when it's over, that's a celebration of that. And it's similar to the idea of new moon in the Old Testament, those kind of festivals. So that's probably where it comes from. and that's what they celebrate. But it's in the end of Ramadan, and it's also the end of they read Quran throughout the season. So for others, it will be, okay, we finished the Quran and we finished that, so celebration for that too. So different people will look at that differently when you're talking to them.
Interesting.
But it's definitely a big festival in Islamic world.
Good. So growing up in Pakistan, it's a heavily, is it a majority Muslim country?
Oh,
would you
yeah,
say?
it's definitely. It's somewhere you're looking at 95,
Okay.
96% or maybe more now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was your family Muslim and you were first Christian, or?
No. My dad is a pastor in Pakistan.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And my grandparents from both sides became Christian, but not from Muslim background. One came from Sikh background, the other one came from Hindu background. But because it's a majority Muslim culture, Islamic culture, so the Islamic awareness is just given.
Okay, it's just part of everything.
It's just part of life. It's just, that's how it is.
Yeah.
And it's not that you have to try to assimilate. It's just forced in a way.
Yeah.
It's your lifestyle. So, for example, I was planning to go to Pakistan, take my family there, but then in March, this March, but then we had to cancel all the plans because all the restaurants are closed, everything is closed. So it would have been a bad experience for children. And that's something you can get arrested, and it's forced in a way that you just obey. So it's like in your mind, you just do it.
Yeah.
So therefore, Christians in Pakistan also fast, but they fast
for different reasons.
For different reasons. Right now, right now it just came together. So Muslims were fasting and Christians were, because of Lent, they were fasting. So it was, somebody asked me like, so they fast Ramadan too? I said, no, it's just Lent happened to be during Ramadan.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't we get into some questions about Islam? Some of our viewers are tuning in. Maybe you were interested in the title of this video. And you have some questions about what is Islam? Who are Muslims? And I thought I'd just ask you an overview before we talk about maybe some application. What is Islam, and what does the religion teach? Could you give us a quick overview of Islam?
So Islam is the religion. Muslim are the people who follow the religion. It's not like Christianity and Christian. It's just two different terms they use. Muslim, the word Muslim for Urdu purpose, it will be Musallim Iman. Iman is, that's how I learned in Urdu at least. Iman means faith. Muslim is the person who has Musallim Iman, means Musallim is a word for solid faith. So a person with solid faith. So that's one way to look at Muslim. But in Arab culture, they may have different way of looking at, but that's how they taught in Pakistan or in India because of Urdu language. So it's a person who has strong faith in Islam. And Islam is a religion that was founded by Prophet Muhammad. And he had his own experience, and then he claimed that he been chosen to be the prophet. And the teaching was fairly simple, very much similar to Judaism. The only time it changed, as a matter of fact, the half of the Quran, so Quran is divided in Makki surahs and Madni surahs. So when you look at Makki surahs, those are from Mecca. And Mecca was Arab place where today people go and do Hajj. That's where Muhammad is from. But it was still, a lot of other faiths were coming through. But Madni surahs are Medina. That was the place where mostly you had Jewish people. So therefore, the influence that whole Arab region was influenced by Judaism. So Quran is mostly Jewish teaching, even their dietary laws, their family laws, divorce, and all the other things. Almost everything is similar, except the prophet is Muhammad. That's where it changes.
Right.
It's not that Muslims don't accept.
And they trace their lineage back to Abraham too. Right? So both Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are Abrahamic religions.
Right. Yeah. And the reason for that is again because Ishmael will be the branch that will take them to at least from
He's
Muslim
a
perspective.
wild donkey of a man.
There
right?
you go. That's correct. So
Bible says.
I was just watching somebody, a Jewish scholar, and he was arguing that could have been the reason. That could be that's possible. That's how it is, and therefore it might have been the case that they are cousins, basically.
Yeah.
But at the same time, scholars have argued against that too. So there's still division, but that's not the point. The point is Muslims do believe that they are the children of Abraham through Ishmael, while Jewish people believe through Isaac.
Yeah.
And we believe through Jesus. We were adopted
Yes.
into the family of Abraham. So
Yeah. Good. Do you have any questions?
What is
Yep.
the Shahada?
Shahada is it's a confession of faith. That's how you became Muslim. So for Christians, at least Protestant Christians, we just say that magic prayer. But actually, the idea is you got to give your heart to Jesus, right? But you have to confess your faith, your belief with your mouth, as Paul teaches. But in other denominations, it's different. When you come to faith, you have to say certain things. And in Islam, it's very clearly articulated. It's La ilaha illallah, which means there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad Rasulullah, that he is the prophet of God, because his prophecy was challenged. That's how it split. It actually was sort of a sect of Judaism up until Muhammad declared, when Jewish people did not take him as their prophet, and they said, no, Moses is our prophet and you are not the promised one. That's where the split happened. That's where everything went totally crazy. That's where you see the violence in Quranic verses too. So the Shahada became the focus point, that if you say Muhammad is, because there's no problem with the monotheistic view of God. So if Allah is a name for God, saying there is no God but one, that's actually with Shema. We're looking at same confession that we have. When Jesus said, love your God and love your neighbors. But that same God is I believe, the same God that Muslims believe too. Because if they say that we believe in the God of Abraham, then I should say that should be the case. Not the Western understanding, they're worshiping idols and they're worshiping a God who is not true God. We can theologically, we can argue that. But first part is Shema. That's where it's taken from. Second part is added by the Prophet himself when he said, Rasulullah. That makes you Muslim, not Jewish, not Christian.
Right.
Good. What about the different sects of Islam? So when we talk about Shia versus Sunni, is there more sects?
Sure.
There's nuances within that.
Yeah, so there's a prophecy, or at least that's what we know from Muslim scholars, that Muhammad said that there will be division after me. And he said that it would be many sects, and there's a certain number of sects. So right now we have close to and last time I looked at it, was like over 100, close to 100, something like that. But their main
Over
ones,
100 sects.
sects.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
I did not know that.
Yeah, so main one you look at is a Sunni, but Sunni divides within. You have Wahhabism, that's Saudis.
Okay.
And Islam.
And Sunni was more like Iraqi. Isn't that what, like
Right.
Saddam Hussein was a Sunni?
He was Sunni, yeah. But Sunni would be Sunnah. It comes from the word Sunnah. Sunnah is the tradition of Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
So Sunnah is anybody, so Muslim people who have beard, that's the Sunnah after Muhammad. Because he did it, I'm going to do it. So anybody who follows the tradition of Muhammad would be a Sunni. So all the people that call themselves Sunni, that's the first layer of thing. They differentiate themselves from those who do not follow the traditions of Muhammad. And those people are Shiite. That would be the first branch, right? Because when the split happened after the death of Muhammad, it was over the succession, who is going to be the next Caliph. So the first one was Muhammad's father-in-law, then another friend, and then somebody, and then finally, so you had fourth place they gave to his own family member, which was Ali. So the followers of Ali went into a direction, you have to be from the descendantship of Muhammad in order to be a Muslim.
Yeah.
So that became bloodline, and that became Shiite Muslims. And the rest who said, no, that's not needed. Muhammad appointed a successor.
Yeah.
At least that's what they claimed. So therefore, this division continues from day one since the death. But within Sunni, you have now Wahhabism, which is a political movement, got so popular because it had to legitimize the rule of Saudi family. So there's a lot of political things there. Then you have other branches like Yemenis got their own branch. Then you got in Iraq, you have a bunch of different ones. Yazidis, you got those. So there are different type of people. They have flavor of Islam. So little of Islam, little of something else. So they became so many subdivisions.
Yeah.
But one of the popular one that is becoming more popular in the West is it's a totally different guy who's leading. It's a Mirza. The name of the guy is Mirza. They call them Ahmadi Islam. And in Pakistan, actually, the law of blasphemy was introduced because they will add words to that shahada. Earlier we heard from David that question. So when they added that, they said, because that means when you say that means Muhammad becomes the last prophet. There is nothing after him. So that was the claim of Islam. But Ahmadi brought this guy, Mirza, and his denomination started in India under British Raj, and they are more popular in the West. So in when you see a lot of great events being hosted, a lot of things being done, usually it's the Ahmadi Muslims who are doing. Because they're more free to, and they do a lot of evangelism. They actually, in New Jersey, will see this truck going around. It has a picture of a guy in turban with beard, and it says Messiah has arrived. That is Ahmadi religion. So in their mindset, Jesus has come back, and that Jesus is Ahmadi, and that's the final, because he is Islam, but also the culmination of Christian prophecy. So you have, those will be the three that I will look at as main, and then all the subdivisions that you have. There is in subcontinent India, they produce so many sects. It's just insane how many different denominations are there. Yeah.
You mentioned Jesus. Who is Jesus in the religion of Islam?
Yeah. So theologically, so there are two, always any question you will ask have two answers. One, that what Muslims will say and what actually it is, right? So Muslim will say that is Isa, that is the Jesus of the Bible or of the Christian faith. But when we begin to compare him with the Christian Bible or his attribute, it will be different. Same thing is true with Allah too. When you compare Allah attributes with the Yahweh, you're going to have trouble. But, so that's Christian response, so that people don't feel that I'm advocating for the same thing. I'm not. I'm just presenting Muslim viewpoint, not what I believe about their faith. So Muslim perspective is Jesus is the same Jesus that Christians believe, but Muslims say Christians are mistaken, because Jesus was, at the time of betrayal, his shape was changed. So he was no longer Jesus because he was taken up. It was Judas who betrayed Jesus. His face was transformed or changed into Jesus. So it was Judas who was crucified. But now when you open the Bible, that's where my struggle comes in. I always have problem when I'm talking to Muslims and Christians. I ask them, I say, okay, the problem is Muslims always looking at Christians and trying to tell them Christian what their faith is about, and Christians are always looking at Muslims and telling them, well, let me tell you what your faith is about. So they look at us and they tell us that, oh, you got it wrong.
Yeah.
Your Jesus is actually not that Jesus. And we like, no, in the Bible, we literally testimonies are there that Judas, how he died, what happened to Jesus, all those details. But Muslims are not willing to look at that.
Yeah.
And for Christians, the problem is when we talk to them, we often have struggle to continue conversation because we like, oh, you don't believe in the same Jesus. But at least there is a point of reference to, and we can talk about that in application.
Well,
but that's the complicated but simple answer.
Great answer.
Yeah, it's great. And of course, that is the key question. Who is Jesus, right? That's the dividing point. So last summer, our mutual friend, Amun Sharon, he leads these mission weekends, and I participated, and he trained us a bit on Islam and how to minister to Muslims, and then he took us to a mosque.
Right.
And I think this is the biggest mosque, at least in the local area. But they told me, I think 3,000 people or something like that go. It was like a mega mosque. We have mega churches, but they also have mega mosques. And we met with the main imam. But the thing that struck me was in their service that we were able to attend when he gave his homily or whatever they call it, sermon. A lot of the things he said, Christians would look and say, "Oh, he's talking about X, Y, and Z from the Bible." Things that maybe initially on the surface we might not disagree with. And it made me think when you're talking with folks, you really need to dig down and ask them what they mean by certain things.
That's correct. Yeah.
So that being said, the fact that there's a mega mosque in central New Jersey means there's a lot of Muslims around us. And I wondered if you could give your perspective on what is the landscape of Islam in central New Jersey?
Sure.
Like what sects are present? What are the types of people you'll meet? Are they practicing? Are they just kind of going through the motions? What are some things that we should be aware of here in central New Jersey?
Sure. So central New Jersey, or New Jersey in general, is part of Metro New York, and New York is that's where the main presence is. So when we look at Metro New York, we are looking at about 1 million Muslims. And among them, I would say the largest number, of course, is Sunni Muslims, and part of that is, South Asians are here in a large quantity. Most of the South Asians are Sunnis. Arabs.
And when you say South Asian,
South
Indian,
Asian, India,
Pakistani?
Both of those countries have
Is
large
Chinese
presence.
considered South Asian? No.
No, they are East Asian, but they
Okay.
also practice. So their Islam came through Turks.
Okay.
So when you look at Ottoman Empire, they
interesting.
also brought Islam, but their Islam has a different tone
Yeah.
from South Asian. That Mughals were there, so they brought a different type of Islam.
Yeah.
And over the period of time, it evolved. So you have there are variation of these Islam, and they're actually many of these groups end up creating trouble for general Islam, because when you're talking to a Muslim, you might be thinking about a type of Islam. So, for example, the Islam that we have known in the United States pre 9/11 was Black movement. It was totally different Islam. They declared themselves Muslims, but the guy they were following was not even accepted as a prophet, because he also claimed to be a Nation of Islam. That's what they called them. So the guy who
Just
was
like a
head,
black supremacist movement that was really very different from the Islam of the Middle East.
correct.
Yeah.
But yet, because it was in the United States, which was the power, world power, so people gravitated toward, and they mended their relationship. Somehow they were able to go and perform Hajj and everything. Still, they took them in. But the problem that today we have is you have these South Asian Islam, and then you have Arab Islam coming in, especially from Syria and Iraq, and then you have Afghanistan. A lot of Afghan people are here in this area too. So when we talk about so for example, the mosque you went to, you're going to have mixture of other people, but mostly you're going to end up with the South Asian Muslims. So the difference between these guys is hard to differentiate when you're talking to them. But my thought is, you're still dealing with a large number of Muslims, no matter how you look at them. So you need to just know the type of Islams that you're looking at, the denominations or sects, to just communicate with them. Now, new generation will have different perspective. I think since the war in the Middle East, especially this Palestinian issue, that has brought more extreme Islam. Right now, people are more extreme. So right after 9/11, things got really good because every mosque was doing their best to promote a version of Islam that was helpful for our country. And it was very peaceful. They tried to condemn terrorism. But then this war now, because it's based on hate against Israel, by association, hate against America and the church that stands with Israel. So it has become really, really difficult now.
Yeah.
So even if you're not a Muslim, you have like really strong conviction that Muslims are good people and churches and those people who are persecuting them. So it has changed, which is also, even in when under Obama's administration, we had that ISIS crisis, right? Mm-hmm. So then was still extreme, but I think now it's like a different type of extremism.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up in terms of the New Jersey landscape, because I did notice a headline a little while ago, and I just looked it up here. So Paterson, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Okay. So when Ramadan began last month, the headline here is it says, Paterson mayor declares New Jersey City capital of Palestine in Ramadan kickoff, and Paterson, New Jersey is the fourth holiest city in the world. Which, wow, I didn't know there was a holy city in New Jersey, but apparently Paterson is it. Jerusalem, Mecca, Medina, and Paterson, New Jersey in the same sentence. What's going on there? What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, so Palestine, after the refugees and all that, for some reason, they decided to concentrate in Paterson. So Paterson is known as Little Palestine.
Okay.
I just had a missionary at my church who served in Palestine, mm-hmm. and he said before they went, when they came back and they saw that Palestine, they went to Paterson, Paterson, it's both words. But when they got here, his wife and him, they were just blown away, because the moment they got out of the car, they looked around and it was like if they are in Palestine. Because the way moms were treating their children, the noise, the aroma, food, mm-hmm. everything was just like... So if you go there, which I go constantly, I go there because food is amazing. Mm-hmm. And that's where I buy my tahini. Mm-hmm. And those kind of things.
Tahini's good.
Oh, yeah. So it's a good place. But the culture is, they have maintained the culture in a way mm-hmm. that shows you are in Palestine, all the businesses, everything. So that's why Paterson is known, and even in this movement, the most recent, when the war started and all that, you had a lot of protests came out of that, movement came out of that. So that's what you have.
Paterson has about 150,000 people, and there's been about 10,000 Palestinian mm-hmm. refugees that have come into Paterson since the recent conflict. That's a pretty significant group.
And the businesses, because think about the economy. When you go to the main street there, all the businesses are Arab businesses and Palestinian mm-hmm. businesses. So when you have economy is built on something, the stores tells you the buildings and people who live there, it changes the mm-hmm. dynamic of the society they create. It's no different from when you have in Brooklyn, there's an area called Little Pakistan. Mm-hmm. Same idea. Businesses are owned by them. They have same culture, same understanding. So these are important things, because when you have these groups here, it doesn't matter where you're looking at, you have an opportunity, because they concentrate. Mm-hmm. So they will concentrate in one place. So if all of them are Muslims, so you got them in one place. But then within those states, there will be their own little neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's good. And I think that's sort of the point that, if you're living here in New Jersey, especially central New Jersey, the chances that you're going to be rubbing shoulders with somebody who is of the Islamic faith are high.
Yeah.
So that might be a good segue to start talking a little bit about application. I'll throw out one question, then maybe Dave can throw the next one. What do we need to be aware of when we're talking to a Muslim? So I meet somebody, we become friends, they're Muslim, I'm Christian. How do I have conversations that can potentially lead to spiritual application with them?
Sure. I think the first thing is most of the time when a non-Arab speaks to them or non-Middle Eastern person speaks to them, it just had different meaning, right? So in other words, if you're a Caucasian, especially if you're a Caucasian or you are Asian, Asian as in Korean, Chinese,
East Asian?
Eastern Asian,
Okay.
It just have different feel because that's when you see them different culture. If you are a South Asian or you are Arab, you just, because your color, skin color, just immediately makes you just connected. You're just connected. But when you see a person, an Anglo person, immediately there's a different feeling. You're like, oh, I need to act differently. So I think if you are talking to a Muslim person, and if that Muslim person is not a convert, rather in this region, most of them have migrated here. So first thing we need to find a way to present ourselves. We are not threat to them. That would be the first thing. Second, that we are interested in them because that's a good thing. Third, we want to just learn and eat their food, sit down with them. That's one thing you're gonna find all over Muslim world. Food is good thing. Hospitality, food, culture, just getting them somewhere, just eat together.
Yeah.
And if they have business, go to their business, eat at their store, and then have conversations. So I think first thing is, how can you, depending on, for me, it would be easy, right? So if I'm talking to a Muslim person, that person not going to, I know they will assume that I'm a Muslim. That's how it starts. And I have to tell them I'm not. Because the second question always is, so where are you from? Pakistan. Now they're definitely sure that I'm Muslim. Then I was like, no, but I'm not Muslim, and that shocks them.
Do you ever act and pretend that you're a Muslim for the sake of conversation?
I used to.
Okay.
I think I started this when I started my career as a missionary in New York. I used to have, in the beginning, I won't say anything, but then I began to hear reports coming out of Bangladesh about this technique, camel, which was a good technique, but it left a bad taste where it just backfired, and it was not good. It was deceptive. Okay. So I chose, at that point, it was back in 2010, 2011, that's when I changed my mind that it hurts. In the long run, it hurts. But in the short runs, we may lose that friend, but by just telling them I'm Christian. But you don't need to bring faith. I think that's the more healthy way of. So there is no reason that you should shy away from truth, but there is every reason that you should speak truth in love, compassion, and care. So we don't need to immediately start talking about religion. Religion will come up. It's just how Islam is, a Muslim world is. So my thought is, when you're talking to somebody, start just a conversation. When you see somebody, just think about if the person is, whether that person is Muslim or not. You don't start, let me tell you I'm Christian, so this. You just meet people. You have them over for birthdays. They are getting together. Eventually those things come up. What church do you go to? Oh, I don't go to church. So those kind of, I think, natural path to that kind of conversation is better than forced one. Unless you're doing street evangelism, then you're supposed to do that. Yeah. So that would be my thought.
Can you just say a little bit more about the camel method, just like a paragraph? What is the camel method?
Sure. So it used to be that you will go to the mosque, you sit down, and you will basically pretending to be Muslim, right? So you talk about Islam, you talk about your interest for that, and then you build the bridge. And a lot of time, actually, what happened, Muslims will come to Jesus. Actually, this came out of Bangladesh. Muslim came to Jesus, but they continue to be Muslim. So they became Christians, undercover Christians. But over the period of time, it was bad because when the news broke, then the Christian community, genuine Christians, felt those who were persecuted for Jesus because they converted, they felt that, okay, why they have an easy life? They're just lying and deceiving. So for Christians, that was bad. For Muslims, it was bad because they're like, oh, look at them. They're just coming in undercover. They are deceiving us. So for both things, it became a bad thing. But the method is still good. I think there is a place for that, but we just need to be careful.
Is camel an acronym for something, or?
No, there's a story about how Allah has 100 names, and we know 99 of their names. Or a camel has 100 names, and we know 99 of the names, but one name we don't know. So isn't the idea like
Paul,
you're introducing, like Paul with the unknown God, like, let me tell you about one name for Allah that you've never heard of that's Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Is that the idea? That's the camel method?
Yeah.
Did I explain that right?
Yeah, good.
Okay.
There's
Look at you. You passed the test.
So you have a bunch of things in that. So you train people in different stories. But essentially, my problem is that method is good, deception is bad. Like anything, when you abuse something, it turns in. Same thing is true. We used to, I do actually, that explosion.
Evangelism explosion.
It's the same idea, how far you need to go to threaten somebody and show them end life to cause them to come to Jesus versus do they want to accept Jesus because they love Jesus, if there's a truth in this. So in every technique, you're going to end up having trouble.
Yeah.
But it depends on how far we take that.
Yeah.
Methods are methods,
Yeah.
They're tools.
So we're getting close to Easter. Easter is a few weeks away. And one of the things that we encourage our folks to do, Dave actually just did it yesterday, was to think about a friend they could invite to church. So my question to you is, if you have a Muslim friend, is it a good idea to invite them to church? Is that a good method for introducing Christianity to them?
Absolutely. I think that's especially around Easter is a great idea because Easter...
And will they come?
I think maybe they will come. I mean, God can do amazing things. We just need to do our part, right? That's what amazes me about witnessing and testimony and evangelism. Our job is to present the invitation, give the invitation, present the gospel. Jesus' job, the Holy Spirit's job is to convert people. I often tell, when I'm talking to Muslims, actually I tell them, when I start a conversation, I always tell them, I'm not here to convert you. That's my always statement, and it's a true statement. And I tell them, because I can convert you. That's the work of the Holy Spirit. I tell you.
Right.
Up front, I say these kind of things. So when a Muslim come, they get to hear what actually we believe about the resurrection of Jesus. And they get to see, and depending on who is preaching, what you're doing, God will use some of that to touch that heart. And I think that's a brilliant and easy, extremely easy step for any congregant. They don't need to do much. They invested in that person. All they need to do is like, hey, come to church, which is also true for atheists, agnostics, our Catholic friends, our Jewish friends, anyone. But for Muslims, I think that is the main issue. If we didn't have Easter, there is no problem between Muslims and Christians. You have everything. Think about a circle, right? So if you standing here and you go around the world, right? And you get back right here, it looks like you're so close to each other. So close. Everything's same. The problem is you can never get together because that's one difference is bigger than this whole circle around. And that difference is Jesus did die on the cross. And he rose again. That's one piece is the problem.
That's Easter.
And that makes
him
Easter. That makes him the Son of God. So I think if somehow people are challenged and if they watch this before Easter and if they invite, great. Otherwise, even if they watch after Easter, still is a good thing because I hope every message somehow brings the gospel out. And gospel changes. It's not my argument, your argument. is Jesus
Is the-
who changes
right.
life, right?
Good. Maybe 2 more questions. You want to ask one, and then I'll wrap up with one?
Sure. Can you say anything about the gospel? How would I best introduce the idea of the good news to someone who is a Muslim? And what would be the best way to explain why this good news is good news?
Yeah. So I was in Albania talking to this new student who was becoming an imam, and the meeting was arranged by a pastor who actually came from Muslim background. So it's a Muslim background pastor who brings his friend who is becoming an imam. And the conversation started, and I asked him, first question I asked him was, how good you need to be in order to be good enough that Allah can accept you? And he didn't have the answer. And I think that's a good question for anybody, but especially for Muslims. And I think for Muslims to start there will help them to see, I really don't know, because nobody knows. And then the second question is, how sure are you that if you die today, which is evangelism explosion, that you will go to heaven, you go to paradise? And the person, again, is two things. One, some are too proud of their religious deeds. They will say, oh, I will. And you will ask them, why? And they will tell you the works. But majority Muslims will say, only Allah knows. Allah knows. Only God knows. So in both cases, it comes down to, I don't know. I'm not sure. And there you have the assurance that you can bring. And the gospel message is always about the assurance. So we are dealing with the lack of assurance, lack of salvation, because in Islam, even though the concept of sin exists, but there is no concept of salvation. Why you need salvation? Or just to be forgiven of your sins? Because there is no original sin in Islam. That's the main issue, is there is no original sin. That leads to lack of need. If there is no original sin, you don't need a savior. If you don't need a savior, you just need a prophet who tells you how to be good people. But how do you know that you are good people? How much good you need to do in order to be good enough that God will accept you as good?
Yeah, what's funny is when I did that trip with Amun to the mosque, I think it was in Piscataway, when we were talking with the main imam, that was even something that was a struggle in our conversation with him. You could see you never quite know if you did good enough until you actually meet God. That's so you're always wondering whether you're going to be saved, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So there's no assurance.
Yeah. And most of the time, Muslims will tell you, those who do come to Jesus, they will articulate that in many different ways, but that will come down to like, I always felt this, I did not know. But when they encounter Jesus, they just know. And part of the knowing is there's the Holy Spirit. We believe he is there, and that's what he does. He brings that clarity and assurance.
Wonderful. All right, so last question as we're wrapping up. What are some resources that you would recommend to help us learn how to do ministry to Muslims, other than, of course, watching this podcast right now?
I have one book called Muslim Next Door, The Muslim Next Door. And that book has the 160...
That you authored?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we can link it in the show notes.
Sure.
Yeah.
It has 165 different questions that people ask. Some of those questions are most of those questions been asked over the period of 25 years. And when people ask those questions, my job became to give them the right answers. And it varies from what is Islam, but you got to type, there are 2 books with the same name. One is written by a Muslim lady and the other one is mine. But the idea there is, I believe that there is hardly any question that you will ask that is not answered in that book. It's literally in a question.
I'm looking at it right now. In fact, I would change my book recommendation during our book war today, Pastor Dave, had I known about this one.
Oh, thank you.
Good. There it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy it, man. I'm going to buy it.
Oh, thank you.
We got to link this, Tim.
Yeah.
You have to sign it, though.
Yeah.
That's right. We should have a book signing. Alfonse Javed.
That would be awesome, right? Other than that, I want to give you heartformuslims.com is a good organization. It's a network of some 35 different organizations. And there, if you go under their resources page, you're going to find resources, trainings, and refugees tab. And there you're going to see literally you can speak to people. You can go for mission trips. You can do short-term missions, but then you have several different great books recommendations, practical training recommendations. So it's one place you have plenty of different resources.
Wonderful.
It's heartformuslims.com.
Heartformuslims.com. Wonderful.
Correct.
All right.
As a matter of fact, you can also find multi-language Bibles to give them to printed, non-printed, different resources. It's a good resource site.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, Alfonse, thanks so much for coming on. This was
Absolutely.
super enlightening, and I hope that this was really beneficial to you that were watching. Dave, thanks for being in the co-pilot seat today.
Yeah, thanks
You
for
asked
letting
us
me
some very
hang around with
insightful
you guys.
conversations.
Good to see you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, as always, thanks so much for joining us on the Underground Sessions podcast. We hope to see you next time. Click around and see the different videos that we've made. Hopefully they're a benefit to you, and God bless.